Everybody, this is Pastor Michael at Ascension Lutheran Church in Torrance, California, and it's time for another Midweek Boost. This past Sunday, we read how Simon Bar-Jonah confessed that Jesus was the Christ, the Son of the living God, and Jesus commended him for his faith, saying that there's no way he could have come to that knowledge by his own flesh, but rather it came to him from the Father. We acknowledge that Jesus is God. We acknowledge that he rules and reigns over all things, that he has ascended into heaven and sits at the right hand of the Father. We acknowledge all these things in our brains and with our mouths. But how often do we let it penetrate to our hearts? Martin Luther said that after God gave instructions to Adam and Eve, and he said, "Do not eat of the tree in the midst of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or in the day that you eat of it, you shall die." He said that every time they walked by that tree, however many times that might have been, they worshiped the Lord. They were worshiping him, acknowledging him as God, as sovereign over all things, over all creation. It was when they failed to heed his word, that they failed to worship him, and they fell into death. We do the same thing every time we fail to acknowledge that Jesus is indeed the Son of the living God, and that he is the one who rules and reigns over all things, just as his word has told us, just as he has told us. We can say it with our mouths, we can think it with our minds, but unless we trust it with our hearts, then we have failed to worship him. But every time that we trust that he's going to turn things for the good, no matter how awful they may be, when we trust him and trust his word, then we worship him. We're acknowledging that he is who he says he is, who God has told us that he is. Every time we believe that he's in charge, that not even a bird falls to the ground without his hand, that he's behind everything and he loves us. When we acknowledge those things and trust in him, we worship him. And that's what our life is supposed to be, is just constantly worshiping the Lord. And it's not necessarily falling down and praying constantly. It's by acknowledging who he is with our heart, in spirit and in truth, worshiping him as our God, who's in charge of all things and who loves us. And as we believe that in our hearts, we worship him. I encourage you to worship God every moment of every day by simply believing with your heart in who he is and his promises for you. Have a great day, everybody.